What's the job market like for new grads and other questions related to everybody getting out of college last week, the week before, this week, next week? You know the drill. Hey, good morning, boss.
Good morning.
You know,
Where's my coffee?
Your job is her job. By the way, the band quit kind of quick there, didn't they? They just kind of left us. No, there they are. All right, band. See ya. There they go. So Julie Bauke's here. All right, so a gross generalization here, but did we know a percentage of kids that have a job lined up by the time they graduate?
No, we don't. And honestly, I couldn't even hazard a guess. It's not. I don't think it's as big as it was back, a few decades ago, when generally companies would come on campus, and that was their pipeline. They'd show up, interview people all day, and then pick some, and that was pretty much their pipeline. And colleges certainly set it up to make you feel like you're going to have a job once you graduate. But I also know, just anecdotally, a lot of people graduating right now, and I would say about half of the people I know have something lined up and are heading into sort of the black hole of job search. And so it's a tough process. And, especially when you're right out of school and you're really used to kind of following a path for 16, 22 years, and all of a sudden you're out there looking. And to put the icing on the cupcake, a lot of the ones I talk to are like, well, I'm not sure what I want to do. I'm like, well, I'm not sure what you want to do. That's really hard.
That doesn't translate to somebody sitting down when they hire you. So again, maybe a gross generalization, but by the time you are between your junior and senior years, I always thought the internship for the major you've chosen and the interest you have was the best way to have a job a year after that. Mm.
Yeah, I mean, any sort of relevant work, any sort of experience with an employer who's had the opportunity to work with you will always set you up better, not only for a return trip to that employer if you choose, but also it makes you attractive to other employers because you probably have a relevant reference, someone who's seen you work in a professional setting, and you come potentially to your new company with some knowledge about, let me just generalize, how to behave.
Yeah, how to be a grown-up.
And that's clearly what we're seeing now. And there was a study a couple weeks ago that came out, and I don't think we talked about it, about hiring Ivy League grads. We don't think we talked about that.
No, we didn't, no.
Yeah, so Forbes did this study of employers and said, are you more likely, less likely, et cetera, to hire Ivy school grads versus, let's just put them in a lump, other non-Ivy private schools and public schools. And it was amazing. Like 33%, I think, of companies said we are less likely to hire Ivy League grads and more likely to hire kids that are in maybe the public schools, like Big Ten, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but the stuff that's been happening recently is certainly a part of that. And employers are very focused on hiring people who are ready to show up and work.
Julie, I was at the U of I commencement in Champaign-Urbana on Saturday, and the commencement speaker was Jeannie Gang, Chicago architect, and she said that she met with students in preparing for her commencement speech. She wanted to Zoom with about a dozen students and see what their concerns were and what they wanted to hear as they were entering the workforce, which I thought was really cool. And she said their first concern was finding a job. Finding a good paying job, upon graduation. Their second concern, and this is the interesting part I found, was that once they're in that job, would they be happy? They were worried about second guessing themselves. So, for example, you major with an accounting degree, a year in, you think, okay, I don't want to do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I found that interesting.
Yeah, no, that is certainly, if you would have interviewed students even 10, 20, 30 years ago, that second one probably wouldn't have been there. I think the first one is kind of universal and evergreen.
Right.
But and it really lines up, too, with what we're hearing, that these young people are really afraid of making a mistake. And I think everybody who's listening on this call who's over, 35 would tell you that making mistakes or having quote-unquote failures is where they learn the most.
Well, you also have to, when you go into an interview, provided you get the face-to-face, you got to clear the analytics of whatever well, you're dealing with the application process before somebody screens you out and decides you're worthy of a face-to-face. But by the time you do the face-to-face, if you haven't taken the time to at least Google up the company, Google up the person you're talking to if you know who they are, have an understanding of what you want to know from the job, and be prepared to put yourself in their shoes. They're hiring you. Put yourself in their shoes. Yeah. Say, what do they want to know from me? How can I impress them?
Right.
It's not about you sitting down and going, oh, I hope they don't ask me any tough questions.
Yeah. And it's just, like you said, it's a complete misunderstanding of the whole process. But what we did back in the old day is we would certainly comply with their requests. And we're hearing, I've seen a study that I think we have talked about this, that 20% of 800 employers said they interviewed someone from Gen Z in a Zoom interview, and the person refused to turn their camera on.
Wow.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
20%. Of course, that same study said 20% of 800 companies said we had a Gen Z bring a parent to an interview, too. So that's 160 companies said they had a Gen Z applicant bring a parent to an interview.
I mean, it's just an automatic no.
Wow.
It really is. And what the heck are these parents thinking?
Yeah, 100%. Well, that's how you have a kid who thinks it's okay to have mom or dad come because you did the wrong thing as a mom and dad.
And look the part, too. My sister-in-law is helping someone find a job, and she said, you're telling him you have to dress the part. Now, and the response shouldn't be why.
Yeah, you don't show up. You don't show up dressed like Senator Fetterman. You don't wear a hoodie in Congress. An employer, as a matter of fact, speaking of this, an employer is now taking heat online because a Gen Z job seeker refused to spend 90 minutes on a hiring test, which is standard in the industry. So,
oh my gosh!
So the manager says, "Hey, enjoyed our call. Please see the attached financial modeling test." The Generation Z applicant said, "Wow, this is what they typed back. Looks like a lot of work. Without knowing where I stand in the process, I'm not comfortable spending 90 minutes on this."
Wow.
And the employer...
What was the response?
The employer response... Yeah, that said, well, I can tell you where you stand right now.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh, man.
But he, the employer, it's a he, is taking heat for not listening to the guy that didn't want to spend 90 minutes on.
Oh, we used to have to take current events quizzes, remember? We had to take a test.
If you want the job, if you want the job and they ask you to perform something, you can choose to no longer do the interview.
Right.
But you're not going to get the job if you say, I'm not doing what you want in the interview.
Right. And where that's coming from is there have been some employers who have really, do this project for us, make this proposal for us. They're clearly asking them to do work for the company. And so some employers have gone too far. But when you are coming out of school with a finance degree or an MBA, that's all well and good. But this guy was asking him to do some financial modeling. This is your opportunity to show that you can actually perform on the job. And clue, the fact that they're asking you to do it should tell you where you stand in the process.
Right. You're getting closer.
Complete it and you get the gig.
Yeah.
You're going to get an offer. You complete that and show some level of competency, they're going to make you an offer.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the employer is 100% right in this case. And I rarely can say that because I do think there's a lot of consideration on both sides. But this young person, okay, you don't want to take it. Fine. Then understand there are consequences to that, and don't start complaining about, I can't find a job. And if you do get a job you don't like, you can go get another one. That's the beauty of it. And if your parents start screaming job hopper, ignore them.
It's a free country, boys and girls.
Yeah.
You don't want 5 jobs in 5 years, but you also, there's nothing magic about sticking a job you hate.
Yeah. Stick around, Julie, because when we come back, I want to talk about people's faces. What? Yeah. That's right. What's your face like in the interview?
Oh.
It's amazing I ever got a job because this is my face. This is right now, you're looking at me, you're going, what's wrong with Steve? I'm giddy right now. This is my happy face.
Faces and places.
What, you mean one's covered in tattoos?
But that's a good question.
Yeah, tats on your neck, tats on your
piercings,
face.
Can you keep them in or take them out? Yeah.
So here's my question. I have what I think some people might refer to as resting bitch face.
RBI.
Yeah.
Or RBF, I mean.
RBF. Yeah, it's just my face. Now, I've been able to carve out a nice career because, I came up at a time where I could charm people in an interview without showing all my teeth and smiling and all that. And I knew what I was doing. But I think kids, because they've grown up in a screen era, but not necessarily an era where their friends would go, "Why do you look like that?" Or there wouldn't be an adult in their life saying, "Come on, you got to smile when you meet new people," whatever the case may be. I think RBF could be a problem in job interviews. Am I overstating that?
Well, where I thought you were going with this, but I think it's still relevant, and the bigger topic is there were some millennials who had tats and piercings, or Gen Z who had tats and piercings.
Well, it's an extension of what I'm talking about, right?
Right. And we're complaining that they weren't getting past the first interview. And regardless of what century or decade we're in, first impression bias is always a thing. We're human. We're wired that way. We make judgments when we see people based on whether or not, and it's so snap that we don't even have time to consider it. So let's say you go to a new doctor, and he or she walks in. They've got their white coat on. It's got food stains all over it. Okay, do you want to stay? Can you say from that, and they're old food stains. Clearly, this jacket has not been washed. Is this person the person you want touching you, operating on you? Because they seem to be sloppy. So we make these snap judgments all the time. I think it's seconds. And so when you take that to today, when now we're so used to being behind a screen, refusing to turn the camera on, laying in bed in our pajamas, doing Zoom meetings, then it does take it down. It does take it down a notch in terms of our readiness to engage. And this goes along well with employers who are saying the biggest thing that new hires are lacking are those soft skills. And this is certainly one of those soft skills, the ability to make eye contact, to speak, to smile, and to engage.
Yeah, being pleasant goes a long way.
It comes down to if you have the skills, right? If you have the skills and the talent, it comes down to, are you somebody I'm going to want to work with?
Right.
And are you someone I'm going to want to have represent my company? All right, now let me ask you a question about Tom Hush. Tom Hush, great producer, executive producer of this show.
Oh, no. Are we going to solve Tom's performance problems?
Well, I mean, he's already got the gigs, and I can't speak to his personal life, but
just saying.
Okay,
never mind.
Yeah, he has long hair. He's a good-looking dude, big dude. Looks like, like Jesus Christ's second cousin. But he's got long hair, and are we in an era now where that is an issue? If the long hair is clean and taken care of and sat down, or is that subject to bias as well from a hiring entity?
Well, it really depends, frankly, on what kind of job you're applying for.
Yeah, Tom.
If you are looking to work for an accounting firm where you're going to be going into banks and insurance companies, that might be an issue. But if you're working in a creative firm, if you're working behind the scenes in media, those tend to be industries that are, attract more creative types.
Yeah, we'll take anybody.
Who are more likely to see tattoos, piercings, and long hair in. So you have to match up what you're looking for with who hires what you're looking for, what they expect. It's part of it. We can argue all day long about that shouldn't be, but it just is. You're not going to get anywhere arguing it.
You're absolutely right, Julie. You could say all day long, but if that's what they're looking for, or they want you to be the face, literally, of the company, or the outward speaking person of the company, that's what you have to face.
Ask Andrea how back in the day, before I got stuck in here, right? And I was out on the street as a reporter, I wore slacks and a button-down shirt.
Absolutely.
Every
we wore
single
dresses
day. Now what do I wear?
Overalls.
Because the public doesn't have to
don't
see
want
me.
to know.
Right.
Exactly.
Don't tell Julie. She has this image of you. Hold on.
Well, and I have to tell you, you started with tattoos on your face, and what Tom doesn't know is I was going to give the job to Post Malone. And, and after I met him, I said, no, I'm going to go with the hippie. All right, Julie Bauke, we want to follow you. Where do we do that?
Well, first I want to tell you that starting in the next couple of weeks, we are creating a program called Career Launch for kids who are 19 to 25 to help teach them this stuff and get them out. We're not ready to start, but I just thought, because we talked about this topic, I thought I'll put it out there, and then we'll talk about it again once we're in full launch. But TikTok and Instagram, Julie on the Job. You can follow me there to hear about these programs too, and then of course on LinkedIn, just Julie Bauke.
The great Julie Bauke. Thank you very much.
Well, obviously, we'll keep that between you and me.
Thank you, Julie.
Thanks, Julie.